Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Lesson number 1, organisms and their relationships. What relationships among organisms might exist with a bird nest built on a thorny tree? You have a tree, and it's a thorny one. It's got thorns everywhere. So on top of the thorny tree, you have a nest of a bird. What kind of relationship is this? So automatically, it's going to be difficult for organisms like snakes and the likes to climb on the thorny tree to go and attack the bird. So the bird is getting some protection from the tree. It's getting protection from tree. And as you all said, the tree might be getting some nutrient from the bird too. When the birds poop, so the tree get the nutrient. But the most important thing, it is the bird having protection from the thorns of the tree. The things we're going to talk about in this lesson are ecology, biosphere, biotic factor, abiotic factor. Limiting factors: tolerance, population, biological community, and ecosystem. We're going to talk about biome, habitat, niche, predation, symbiosis, mutualism, commensalism, and parasitism too. What is a species? A species is a group of organisms that can interbreed and produce a viable offspring. You have species A plus species B. They're going to give you offsprings, but this offspring will not be fertile. They will be not viable. But if you have species A plus species A, they're not going to give you offsprings, which is fertile. So that's what we mean by viable offsprings. Offsprings that can give birth to another offsprings. So the meaning is also if you have species B plus species B, they're going to give you what? Lot of offsprings. So, and these offsprings would be fertile too. So the meaning is two different species. In most instances, they don't usually give birth to an offspring. But if they do, they would not produce a fertile offspring. Organisms depend on other organisms and the non-living factors in the environment for survival. Every organism depends on another organism for survival, or sometimes they depend on the non-living factors in the environment. So there is no way you can say you want to survive alone. You're going to always depend on an organism or depend on something for your survival. What is ecology? Ecology is a scientific discipline in which the relationship among living organisms and the interaction the organisms have with the environment are studied. This is a long one. So to make your life easy, you can say ecology is the study of ecosystem. Ecology is the study of ecosystem. Then you can define the ecosystem as a what? As a system where the living things interact with the what? With the not living things in the environment. Ecosystem is a system that comprises of living organisms interacting with each other and with the not living things in the environment. So that makes your life easy. So you don't need to memorize all of this definition. Ecology is observe, environment, experiment, and model using a variety of tools and methods. Ecologists can use models to find the solution to their problem. If they have a specific problem they want to solve, they can use models to solve this problem. How do they use models? The way they use models is by designing a scientific model or the computer models, and then they use these models to develop whatever they want, whatever they intend to develop. So models allow scientists to visualize or simulate a process or a system. For example, the movement of the Earth on its own axis. They actually use a model to make us understand. So, and many other things which we have in science, we use models to understand them in a better way. Scientists can use a physical model. They can also use a mathematical model. They can as well use a computer model. All of these are the kind of models where the scientists can use to solve the problem. The biosphere is a portion of the Earth that supports life. As you know, we talked about sphere. Bio means living, and sphere means part of the Earth. It includes the land mass, where we have animals, and includes the fresh water, where we have aquatic animals like fish. Also, it includes the salt water, where we have shark and some other salt water animals. The lower portion of the atmosphere, where the birds fly, and areas beneath the Earth's surface, where we can find earthworms and some other animals that live underneath the ground. All of this is called the biosphere. So if you want to talk about biosphere, don't limit your definition to only on the top or on the surface of the Earth. So we can have organisms underneath the Earth. We can have organisms in the space and in the sky and in all the places too. What are biotic factors? Biotic factors, they are the living factors in an ecosystem. So biotic factors are living factors in an organism's environment. The interaction among organisms, they are very necessary for the survival of species in the same geographical location. Organisms cannot survive in the same geographical location except they find a way to interact with each other. If they fail to interact with each other, it's going to cause them to either move out or die of isolation or being killed by other animals. Abiotic factors, they are the non-living factors in an ecosystem or in an organism's environment. The examples are the rain, the water, the rocks, and all of this. Organisms adapt in the abiotic environment factors present in the natural environment. There is no way an organism can survive except it has the ability to adapt. If an organism cannot adapt, the organisms cannot live. It's going to die very easily. What is a limiting factor? A limiting factor is any abiotic or biotic factor that restricts. Restrict means reduces or stops or impedes the number of organisms, the reproduction rate, or the distribution of the organism. Limiting factors could be many things. It could be food, it could be water, it could be environment, it could be law, it could be some policy. So every time you find something that impedes, that stops or restricts your progress, we call that thing a limiting factor. So a limiting factor is a factor that actually limits or impedes or stops the development or the increasing number or the distribution of organisms. The ability of an organism to survive when it's been subjected to abiotic and biotic factors which are not friendly is called a tolerance. An ability of an organism to tolerate to be able to survive despite the challenges which the organism is facing is called tolerance. For any environment, a range of tolerance is defined by the upper and the lower limit of conditions in which an organism can survive. Every organism has got an upper and lower limit of the condition. So if you want to calculate the tolerance of an organism, it has to be within the range of the upper and the lower limit condition where the organism can survive. So that's how to know organism can tolerate. So if it's less than that, we won't consider. If it's higher than that, we won't consider. So the biosphere is too large and complex to study as a whole. We can't study the biosphere just as a single entity. So we have to break it down into smaller bits to be able to study it. Ecologists divide the biosphere into levels of organization to study. So they break it down into levels so we can study each level at a time. The level increase in complexity as the number and interactions between organisms increases. As the level increases, the number of organisms would increase, the interaction increases, the complexity increases, and everything would also increase. The level of organization are organism, population, biological community, ecosystem, biome, and biosphere. We're going to talk about them one after the other. The lowest level of organization in an individual organism. An individual organism is an organism which is a single entity. You're talking about people, a single entity is a person. And a person is what makes up the population called people. So the lowest level of organization in an individual is an individual organism. Organism of a single species that share the same geographical location at the same time, they form a population. We have a person who is an individual. To form a population, this guy can never by himself form a population. He's going to have people of the same species like him together in a place to form a population. So now you can say we have a population of 8 people, but we cannot call this guy a population ever. So we have a population of 8 people. So this is a population. And this guy is an individual. All right. Now, what about having a biological community? Let's say we have a group of dogs, and we have cats, and we have people, and we have microorganisms, we have fungus, we have mushroom, we have plants. So that would form, we have different types of populations. We have a population of people, we have a population of rats. This is people. This is rats. This is microbes. What are microbes? This is dogs. This is mushroom. This would be called a community because it has more than one population interacting with each other at the same geographical area at the same time. So when you have several different populations interacting with each other, it forms a community. What is an ecosystem? An ecosystem is a biological community, and all of the abiotic factors that affect it. The meaning is it's a system that comprises of living things interacting with the not living things in the environment. So a biome is a large group of ecosystems that share the same climate and have a similar type of community. So a biome is a large group of ecosystems, depending on age. You're gonna have a biome here in Saudi Arabia, you're gonna have a biome in some other country, which is now within the same area, but they have the same climate. They have the same climate. So automatically, the kind of communities they would have would be the same too, because of the what? Because they belong to the same biome. For example, the frozen lake in Sweden would be like the frozen lake in Portugal, would be like the frozen lake in the United States, in Chicago. It would be like the frozen lake in anywhere, because the kind of community in this lake will be the same everywhere you go. So that's what forms a community. The interaction among organisms are important in an ecosystem. A community of organisms increases the chance for survival of any one species by using available resources. Like I said to you before, if an organism decides to live alone, to stay by itself, it's not going to survive for a long time because the environment will not favor the organism to survive alone. So a habitat is an area where organisms live. Anywhere you find an organism, even in your body, on your skin, is a habitat for some organisms. Tapeworm are taking your small intestine as a habitat. So it doesn't matter that they need to be the house. You need to find a house. That's where, nowhere, it's not all the time. Sometimes they can use your body as their own habitat. Now, I want you to know the difference between habitat and niche. A niche is a role and a responsibility an organism play in its environment. We talked about plants being eaten by herbivores, let's say cow being eaten by a tiger. This is a very small food chain. So this is having a niche here, which is a producer, the role it plays in this food chain. And the niche of this is primary consumer. And the role of this is secondary consumer. So this is what niche is. Niche is a role or the position an organism is playing in an environment. That leads us to what competition is. What do we say? Why do we compete? There are two main factors why people compete. One of the main factors is limited resources. If the resources is limited, organisms will compete for it. Or there is a fight for power. So the one organism wants to take over the power is fighting another one. So the interaction occurs when more than one organism uses a resource at the same time. So the interaction would happen when you have more than one organism using the same resource at the same time, then there is competition. Competition is stronger when resources are scarce. The competition gets stronger and stronger when there is limited resources. Predation is an act of one organism pursuing. That is something you need to mention in predation. If I have a lion and I give it some food and eat it, we can't call this predation. It's just feeding. You're feeding the lion. I need to throw a live goat to the lion and then let the lion pursue, run after it around the cage, then hunt it, then kill it, then eat it. That is what we call predation. It's an act of one organism pursuing and consuming another organism for food. The organism that pursues is a predator. So the goat is a prey, while this lion is a predator. So the organism that pursues is a predator, and the organism that is being pursued is a prey. Those words are very important to know. Now let's talk about the types of symbiotic relationships we have. We have symbiotic relationships. They are divided into three sections. What is symbiosis by itself? It is a close relationship that exists when two or more species live together. So a kind of relationship that happens when two or more species, when they live together, is called symbiosis. Symbiosis relationship can either be mutualistic. In mutualistic relationship, both the organisms are benefiting. So the A is benefiting from B and B is benefiting from A. Commensalism, one organism benefits and the other one is neither helped nor harmed. There's nothing happening. It's not hurt, it's not harmed. Everything is fine. And parasitism, one organism benefits at the expense of the other one. So the one that benefits is called a parasite, and the one that is being benefited from is called the host. So in commensalism, there is no even, it doesn't feel like something's happening. A good example here is tapeworm, and what? And human. That's parasitism. Commensalism, a good example could be, I give an example of these anemone. Is it anemone? No. There's a small fish that usually stick itself to the shark, to the bottom side of the shark. He has a what do you call it? A kind of a slipper side to stick itself to the shark. So this is a good example of commensalism, which if you have this kind of questions in the exam, you should be able to find some examples. Yes, I remember. It's called remora. It's called remora. So remora and shark. It's a good example of commensalism. So the shark doesn't even know. And the remora is benefiting, is taking a free ride. So mutualism, it's a case of there is this kind of fish which usually live with the sea anemone. Sea anemone is a kind of organism that lives in the bottom of the ocean. So the sea anemone. So sea anemone is a colorful, sometimes not colorful, but it's always from the bottom of the ocean. And there is a kind of fish which is called a clownfish. The clownfish is always very colorful. So the clownfish relationship with the sea anemone is a good example of mutualism. So what happens is the sea anemone gets protection from the clownfish gets protection because it enters the water, it goes into the sea anemone. The sea anemone has what a stinging section where any organism that comes close to it, it stings it and it kills it. So what happens is the sea anemone gets food by stinging or killing animals that come to eat the clownfish, and the clownfish gets protection from it. So that it's mutualistic. So these are good examples to let us understand. All right. I really appreciate you coming up here. Thank you very much.